Alright, yeah, finally back. This is a good feeling. This is a good feeling, being in the, feels good to be in the groove. Every so often you gotta take yourself out of the groove. So I'll be a little busy going into next month as well. But yeah, it's hard to beat morning, pre, pump, return, solid. But yeah, we were just over in Florida. Mark, we kind of just had a sort of high school friend group trip. So we're all at this condo that my friend's parents have. Walk from the beach. The only beach that we went to was more like a 10-ish minute drive, or at least that I went to, because I only came for like a 4-day chunk. They were there for a little bit longer. And the beach was freaking sweet. We went at the perfect time because there was this excavator. I'm kind of distracting myself, but there's the same big-ass red-tailed hawk here every day. And I just saw it swoop down and grab something. Nice. But it was a section of beach that had like an inlet straight, or whatever the hell you call it. So essentially there's ocean, sort of a bridge of sand, and then more water on the inside. But they got so much rain that I guess the city said that they wanted to send somebody in to open it up and let it drain into the ocean. So they had this huge excavator, like one of freaking those beside me, scooping out, I don't know, it had to be, I mean, what do you call that? The cup? The scoop? Probably the cup. Well, either way, the thing's sucking out like maybe a square meter, 2 square meters at a time of just wet sand and water. It was kind of crazy getting to watch it up close. And then as soon as the water got opened, it starts flowing out. And then that sort of like waterfall-ish river effect starts sucking all the sand out too. So it turned into this like not self-replicating, but just self-sustaining sort of loop of opening with more sand, with more water, taking out more sand, vice versa. There's a ton of fish like trying to swim up too. That was freaking sweet. I should have brought the camera, but I wouldn't want to get it all just messy and sandy. And then eventually, I don't remember I think it might have been Mark first, but his ass jumped in, and eventually I did too. It did not, it looked a lot more fun than it was, because it looks like this big ass like water slide of water just flowing out, but really it was only 1 foot deep, and then you kind of just get ragdolled across the bottom with a bunch of sand scratching you and filling up your swimsuit. But either way, that was pretty cool. Got some pickleball practice, but now we are back. So I traveled yesterday, and I made yesterday a rest day. I could have gone in and done a really early quad day, but it would have been extra tight with the flight out. And it's like, okay, last day down in Florida hanging out with Mark and Aaron. What do I want to do? Literally leave the entire portion that I'd be home and go get a pump? Turning into a rest day, do some stuff with them. So it's a fine line, I just saw a comment that made a pretty good point, where it essentially said you're not locked in for turning down your a family member's like really special occasion brownie or whatever kind of cake or something that they made for you. You're just being a prick. Right? The idea is they went out of their way to make this thing for you, but you're saying, oh no man, I'm dieting, bro, I can't eat that. Get that away from me. So that's kind of a second order sort of situation, because obviously you're kind of conflicted now. Like, do you want to, like, they just went out of their way to do this thing for you, but you want to stick to your diet. That's where you've got to be able to adapt, and when it comes to dieting, I think at least for me, let's just call it a general consensus. If you were to ask 100 people who know about who Sam Sulek is, I think a lot of them would say that my diet is not very strict and I just eat a bunch of junk all the time, which I kind of did that to myself, because I mean, during a dirty bulk, fast or reverse time a couple years, yeah, there's a pretty substantial amount of treats in there for sure. But as of now, certainly much cleaner. But there's still room to play around. I mean, I had some pretty big cheat days on my way down during prep. Now, I don't really have planned cheat days or planned refeeds, so those cheat days kind of acted as refeeds. So that's kind of a fine line of how to do it. But if your plan is such that you have to follow every little bullet point to a T, and that if anything goes off track, then you're totally screwed and you throw the whole thing out. It's like, does that really mean you're locked in? Or does that mean you're just putting yourself on this weird, self-ordained set of restrictions? I guess it's hard to say. There's definitely guys where they're such intense, let's just say routine, or let's just say routinely driven kind of characters, where it's chicken, rice, broccoli, they're meal prepping for a week. They might have their regular fridge, and then they get their meal prep fridge in the garage, which is only full of, straight Tupperwares, which of course is going to get that guy the results that he's aiming for. But I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really sound cool for me to say that I want to leave room for like a scoop of ice cream every now and again. But that's just kind of how it is. And if you get the end results at the end of the day, then what you're doing is kind of working. So sometimes, I guess the main point is try not to put so much pressure on yourself, in the sense that you can't deviate, and you can't, or the idea that you couldn't handle a deviation, because you totally can. Now when it comes to a rather large unplanned deviation, that's where you're going to have to get back on track a little bit stronger. I'll see this comment a lot, especially getting into prep. But it was essentially, dude, Sam, I blew it. I had an 8,000 calorie cheat day yesterday. What the hell do I do? Or sometimes it's just like a hypothetical, like in the future, what do I do if I really screw up? My macros were supposed to level off at 2,300. I went to bed at 9,000. I went to bed with an extra 1,000 grams of carbs in my system. What the hell do I do now? Am I screwed? It's like, not really, man. Because sometimes that'll only count as a bit of a blip on the, let's just say a blip on the radar. Because if you're constantly in a legit deficit, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, one of those days in the 5th week, you're eating, you're fiending for something, you're just going to go nuts. Maybe it's maybe birthday, maybe vacation, or something along those lines. Honestly, if you just dieted seriously well, you had a legitimate deficit, let's say you lost 4 pounds in 4 weeks, a pound a week, very manageable. Like that's not, you have to be a pro bodybuilder in prep doing 2 hours of cardio to lose a pound a week. I mean, if you just gave somebody gave someone a calorie deficit and they actually stuck to it, you can lose a pound a week without even working out, just from your regular routine. So if you did that 4 weeks straight, and then that Saturday, right day one of the 5th week, really you ate as much food as you possibly could. I don't think anybody's eating really much more than 10,000 on a refeed. And then you got back to a legit deficit for the rest of those 4 weeks. So you just had a crazy day in the middle of 2 months of legitimate dieting. That one day isn't going to undo that, Now that's not I'm not saying that as though that's something you should do. It's just more so one day is going to kill you. But usually when somebody falls off the wagon like that, it's not just one day. It's not just one wild day and then I'm back on track. It's not just one wild, dude, we're going to Candy Planet, or we're going to, I don't know, wherever. Usually it's days in a row. Now, once you get into that 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row territory, that's where I think you really can undo a month of dieting in a weekend. Because your body, I mean, think about it, when you're dieting, you're already in this state of like, all right, I gotta hold on to all this food that I have. You know, it's getting scarce right now, so I better use it properly and try to store whatever I can get extra. And then you give yourself 3 days of a bananas just refeed's not even the right term, just a bananas cheat weekend. Hey, Memorial Day, a cheat 3-day weekend, that'll get you. You know, that'll get you. So I guess my main idea there is if you're gonna go nuts, at least just limit it to the day. And then the next day, cardio, deficit, training, you're probably going to get a crazy pump because now you're full of carbs. And then watch what happens. You know, maybe you do have an 8-pound spike, but over the course of that next week, it's going to level off because a lot of that is just going to be carbs and water. You know, so day 1, don't freak. Day 2 to 3, yeesh. It's like, are you even dieting anymore? You know, but plan for today is I'll see. So after kind of traveling around, I don't know if I think today would be potentially not the best day to go for like an insane squat set. So instead of that, I think I'll make today a little lighter with a little bit more volume in the reps. So for quads, leg extensions first, which is always first, usually, at least just to warm up. But probably a few leg extensions, some sissy squats, some hip press, maybe a little, we'll see. But a little bit more of a relatively lighter pump focused day. Or let's just say pump squeeze focused day. And when I say relatively light, I just mean, you know, not a 5-plate squat. But yeah, I think nothing else to say, so let's go in there and get started. All right, let's start double leg. Normally, I'm sitting here with like a little bit lighter weight than this, doing alternating reps, 5 on one side, 5 on the other, light squeezing, more like a rope extension rather than a regular push down. But today, let's start a little heavier. So not the stack, close-ish to it, 230 out of 290, and just go nuts, double leg. All right. Yeah, let's do it like that again. Slow feels much different than fast in the bottom. I'm gonna even try to do the next one a little slower than that. All right, let's go even heavier for this next one, and then we'll change it up. Okay. Oh, crap. Let's do some leg press now. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 plates. That's pretty heavy here. I don't think I could ever max. Okay, well, I don't want to give myself negative talk. But this whole machine full of plates would be nuts. So 9 looks to be about 75%, maybe 60%. I think this thing could probably fit 15. Nah, 13. And that would be nuts. But let's get real here. I want at least 10. I'm not going to aim for 100. Okay, let's drop it to 8 for the next one. Holy shit. Okay. Oh, shit. One more. Oh, yeah. Ooh, all right. Let's go hit a leg extension superset. Ooh, and that might be all. This will be light squeezing. So, since my quads are already so freaking pumped, well, for one, they're already fatigued enough that I can't even really go that heavy here, at least in a way that feels like I'm doing productive work. So let's do 115. So, I mean, shit, almost a third of that heavy third set. Super hard squeeze on the top. Really come all the way to the bottom, like as deep of a stretch as I can. Maybe do that for 12. And then immediately jump behind the machine, feet together, yeah, kind of duck-footed like this, just a little bit. And then by only bending at the knees, not so much at the hips, doing a knees over toe sissy squat. And by holding on to the machine, obviously I keep my balance, but I also can give myself assistance so I can really take my quads to like a second layer of failure. But let's make this shit happen. Just want to pick a better TikTok edit to do it too. All right, come on. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see how quads are looking pumped. All right. So morning weight, 245. I took a little glimpse midsection wise over in like the dungeon mirror. Yeah, I tell you something. I'm not getting too soft. Or at least more accurate to say, I haven't let myself get too soft. But it's not so, I saw a few comments that were kind of, I don't want to say ill-informed, but essentially, Sam, are you ever going to bulk again? And it's like, I didn't say the bulk was canceled. I just said it was delayed. Oh, I've kind of been one to say, you know, who gives a shit about being cut in the summer or being bulked in the winter? Just whatever one you do, just make sure you do it. But I've been on a summer bulk kick for the past few summers, and I think I want to undo that loop. So I'm falling for the propaganda, but I certainly don't mind. So I'm going to try to keep my strength up as possible, of course, but just pull back a little. Just pull back a teensy bit when it comes to body fat. But just standing, I mean, shit. I didn't soften up too quick. So let me see if I can get a little bit of a vein pop. Yeah. Ooh. Oh man. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So I don't think it'll take too long to get back to a state where I've got like pretty strong hamstring striations again. But it'll take a little while. Ooh. So in the meantime, instead of trying to scale my calories up anymore, I'll just keep them right where they're at. So it's not so much, oh shit, I popped my drawstrings out. So it's not so much that I'm now main gaining, because I'm not gaining, right? Like when it comes to whether you want to get larger or leaner, you kind of get one or the other. You know, there's not really an in-between, because if you want to grow, you've got to eat enough food to grow. And as far as I'm concerned, except for the untrained individual, or at least the, let's just say someone who's been out of their training routine for a while and then gets back into it, that's an instance where you can grow muscle and lose fat at the same time, just because you're so new to the stimulus of the gym. But if you've been working out for a few years consistently, you're either gaining mass or losing fat while maintaining muscle mass. So kind of one or the other. But I don't want to let myself, so when I describe kind of what I'm aiming for the next few months, of course I want to get leaner, but I don't want to crash my strength so much. And since I'm not prepping or dieting so hard as for this last prep, I think I can kind of get the two going in tandem. So I certainly expect some strength gains, but purely from just more exposure to the weight, not necessarily due to increased mass. But yet, let's get in the car and get rid of this mop. There we go. Who the heck is this dude, and what has he done with Sam? Yeah, there we go. Shorter hair. I'm talking buzz in the back, little front trim. Yeah, this is a good factory reset. Plus, this is a little tactic. I guess you've kind of got to be the guy who likes that sort of look. But I noticed that when I'm leaner, sometimes it's kind of cooler having shorter hair. For one, not to mention the creature comfort of just being able to dry your hair in like 7 seconds after you shower, but also because proportionally makes your body look, makes your body look bigger. Yeah, what am I saying there? So if your head's a little bit smaller, right, it's not taking up so much space with so much hair, well then your shoulders are gonna look even wider. So I was kind of on a long hair kick. That's why I didn't cut it for the last show, just because I kind of like the look of it. But it was about time now to get that trimmed. But that was a good quad session. That was actually, I thought I was gonna have to rush it a little bit because I had my haircut scheduled for 11 and I woke up a little bit later than I had intended to, just because I slept in a touch. Not too late, but like I wasn't really moving until like 9, you know, like up and dressed and everything. So 9, get to the gym at 9:30. Well, then I'm gonna be done at 10 if I want to get home, and then it ended up just going straight to the haircut from the lift. So I made sure to crank the air so I wouldn't be sweaty. But yeah, this is nice. I literally a weight off my shoulders, if you're thinking about it technically. But yeah, so what the hell do I even title this video? It's not Bulk Day 27, but it's not necessarily, it's not a prep either. Maybe we'll just, maybe forego the titling altogether. Just kind of have this summer be a little more sporadic with the upload titles. But either way, in terms of that quad workout, yeah, that hip press, I really can't stress enough. If you have any, even just a little bit of influence over what kind of equipment that your gym has, I know that over an American Barbell, a little bit further away than from where I live, but I owe them a visit. I gotta go hit a lift over there now that they've got a full-on huge freaking expansion to their space. But, you know, I'm sure if somebody went up to him every day and said, hey man, dude, we need a Mega Mass row. We need it. Come on, you're getting all this equipment. We need to. So if that's you, if you're ever in a situation where you know that your gym's about to buy some shit, and I'm not talking like a Life Fitness or like a Hammer Strength only order, which a lot of gyms end up doing, mainly more commercial gyms, like an Anytime Fitness is like Hammer Strength exclusive. I don't know if they have a deal or something, but like every LA Fitness, all the same equipment. Every Planet Fitness, mostly all the same equipment, things along those lines. But if you got more of a private gym and you can, you can turn the tide, maybe have a couple guys come up to you and both ask for the same thing, you might be able to make something happen. But that hip press is sweet because I can go as heavy as I can go. Like I definitely fatigue my quads before the leg press set with those 3 sets of leg extensions. But even on that first one with 9 plates, like that was heavy. Like that was just about as heavy as I could really go. But the strength curve of the machine is so cool because it gets lighter at the bottom. So the deepest part where, you know, normally that would be like the heaviest in a squat, it actually lets off a little bit. So you can get a full deep stretch and then the rep gets more difficult as you finish it. So it's kind of a more realistic strength curve almost, right? Because think about a squat. You're the strongest at the top, I think you could just take a regular dude off the street, and if you told him, let's say maybe it's a Smith machine or something, so he doesn't even have to worry about his balance, and you said, all right, put your back onto the bar, stand up as hard as you can, just try to lift it half an inch, just make the weight budge. I think a regular person could budge 405, and by a regular, I just mean an untrained person. But could a regular person hold 405 at the bottom in the hole? No freaking chance. So squats are like that, where it's heaviest at the bottom. There's the most tension in your quads right at the bottom, but it's lightest where you're the strongest. So having a machine like that kind of flips the script, where it's lighter at the bottom and then it gets heavier as you get stronger. So just the feeling of approaching failure on a machine like that rather than squats, just very different. And that one in particular, since the movement path is, just as it is, just kind of that pendulum, it takes a lot of pressure off my knees. And I don't feel like it's gonna crush me at the bottom either. Like on a regular sled leg press, which I still like, but if you're going really heavy, it feels like your stomach might explode. At least if you've got, any reasonable amount of food in your system. So if you can get access to a hip press or some kind of pendulum press, I'd highly recommend it. Last year, or I guess this was this 2 bulks ago? Well, the bulk that I was doing before I competed at the Arnold Amateur, so I guess that was back in 2024, I was driving I think it was like about 50 minutes to American Barbell every heavy leg day, because they had a hip press and I wanted to really overload the hip press for my, for my heavier quad sessions. Sorry about that. Leg day haircut turned into errands. So now I'm finally headed back like 2 hours later. So I am freaking starving. Post-workout meal, I guess I will just have to see what happens. Not totally sure. I know it's going to consist of some sort of red meat, either steak or ground beef. But what red meat that ends up being, I guess we'll just have to freaking see. But plan for tomorrow is going to be chest. And I want to branch off. I don't want to just go to the Sam gym. So I guess we'll see where this chest day leads me. But if you tune in for quads, hopefully you did a badass set of squats. If not, hopefully you at least get a badass quad pump. Whether that included squats, leg press, leg extension, sissy squats, you know what you're doing. But yeah, nothing else to say, so I'll see you tomorrow.